And then you didn't catch the start of it in the recording, so that's okay. But yeah, I am here to help and here to inform you guys on kind of what's happening and what's going on.
Thank you. Michael.
Yeah, Mike Olmsted. I'm an Army vet. Actually, a friend of mine sent me this because I've heard of VetsCAN, but I've never been on it. So I wanted to learn. It was interesting that Quentin's going to talk about Onward Ops because I'm in a volunteer with Onward Ops. So I'm currently working with a guy out of Fort Drum. I'm also on called VetReg, so I'm an advisor at the VA hospital on their research committee.
Okay, and you're a Milwaukee area guy?
I'm Janesville.
Janesville, okay. Abe.
Hey everybody, Abe Rabinowitz. I'm the Associate Director here at the Madison VA Hospital. I've been involved in VetsCAN also since the beginning, and just grateful for the opportunity to connect with everybody and to provide some updates about what's happening here at the facility.
Bob Evans, can you hear us?
Yes.
Want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Bob Evans, retired Army officer and representative of the VFW.
Thanks. Katie.
Sure. Katie Beck. I'm the Community Engagement and Partnerships Coordinator with Suicide Prevention and retired Air Force veteran.
Thank you, Katie. Joe?
Hey Keith, Joe Naylor here, Madison VA, Chief of Community Relations and Voluntary Services and Army veteran. Thanks, Keith.
Hi, Joe. Joe Koch.
Hi, Joe Cook here from Woodville, Wisconsin. I'm a 7-year Army veteran. I started a thing called Green Sprouts Farms to help give veterans the opportunity to learn how to farm if they choose to. And we're doing this in Wisconsin and Illinois. And I've went through the certified peer specialist training to help listen to veterans and talk with them. And I see the need for this, and I'm hoping we can do this in Illinois also.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Andrea.
Hello, my name is Andrea Bailey. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I work at the VA as the Suicide Prevention Program Supervisor. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Jody.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. I am Jody Barnett. I am the Women Veterans Coordinator for the Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs. Happy to be here.
Colleen.
Hello. Sorry, just having some technical difficulties. I am the Communications Director for the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. My name is Colleen Fleury, so I work with Jody and Cal. Nice to be here.
All right, MJ.
I think that means me. I'm Matthew Schrader, the Director of Military and Veteran Services at Edgewood College.
All right, and Sam.
Hey, it's Sam. I'm the Associate Manager of Veteran Resource Services at Madison College.
Well, it's nice to have so many universities represented in this call. I think did I miss anybody? My name is Keith Lang. I'm a member of the board of VetsCAN. Connie and I have been working on this for quite some time. Kathy is not available today. I think she's someplace warmer, so she asked us to step in. So let's start with the agenda. The first thing I want to do is I want to recognize the Zupkas Family Trust. They donate $5,000 to us. We're really appreciative of that, and want to give them the recognition that they deserve for being so generous. The next thing on the agenda is updates, and I think we'll start with Abe, but what I want to do before we give him the floor is just to acknowledge the fact that earlier this week I sent Abe a series of questions that were on my mind that I thought might be representative of folks on this call, and I'm sure you have other questions, to kind of give him a heads up of the things I've been thinking about as we work through the agenda of the new administration, some of the challenges ahead of us. So Abe, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you for updates. And then I'm guessing that we're gonna have a fair number of questions directed in your direction based upon what we've all been seeing and hearing.
Yeah, no, sure. And thank you very much, Keith. I think the best way to go about this is just to kind of give everybody updates on some of the things that you might be hearing in the news about different initiatives that are affecting federal agencies and the VA, specifically, and sort of what their impact on operations has been so far. So I'll just kind of go through each of the major areas that has kind of been reported on, and let you kind of be as transparent as possible about what's happening here, and then give you all an opportunity to just let me know whatever's on your mind, and I'll do my best to answer questions. I think the first thing that we've been dealing with at the VA and across the federal government are impacts of the hiring freeze. So that's been kind of widely reported. Fortunately, here at VA, we do have quite a number of positions that have been determined to be exempt from the hiring freeze. So, when you think of, typical direct care kind of professions, whether it's doctors, nurses, health techs, almost all of those kinds of positions have been exempted. Quite a few of the hospital support positions that we need just to maintain operations, housekeepers, laundry workers, engineers, people who run our shops, nutrition and food service providers, are all on the exempted list. So from an operational perspective, there have been, I think, some delays as the system is kind of working to accommodate all of these changes, but we are able to hire in the vast majority of positions that we have. That said, there are some anomalies and some areas that I think we still have some work to do to make sure that we can progress in hiring the people we need in specific areas. But the majority of our hiring is intact. You probably have all also heard quite a bit about the deferred resignation program. Of course, this is the fork in the road email that's been, kind of reported broadly across the country, giving federal workers the opportunity to opt for a deferred resignation that wouldn't take place until September 30th, but it would allow them to basically negotiate a date with their supervisor and begin taking administrative leave as kind of a severance until then. We also, the same positions that were exempted from the hiring freeze are also exempted from the deferred resignation program. So if we had, a doctor or a nurse that wanted to participate, they were not able to participate because their position was considered to be, a public safety concern. So across our enterprise, we only had 9 staff who opted in and were approved for the deferred resignation program. And of course, we value all of our people, and we would have preferred that nobody left, but 9 was the number for us. Also, there's news across different federal agencies about significant reductions in force through firing of or termination of probationary employees. Again, bargaining unit employees were exempted from that. We had one position, unfortunately, that was cut from that process, but only one here at the Madison VA Hospital. And of course, also another big initiative that we're working on is the emphasis to return federal employees back to the workplace full-time. And we are actively working on that. We are actually welcoming back full-time all of our supervisors to full-time in office work status as of this Monday. There has been a date identified where kind of the second wave of people that will have to come back to the office are non-bargaining unit, non-supervisors. So that's not a significantly big group. But the last group of folks that would return to the office are bargaining unit employees, and we don't have a date on that yet. Space is going to be a challenge in the event that everybody comes back. You know, we have a really creative and innovative team here who is flexible and creative. And if we are instructed that we have to bring everybody back, we will have some challenges navigating space constraints here in the hospital. But we're trying to just take this one action at a time and solve the issues that we have today, anticipate the next ones, and after that, anticipate those. So I think there's still quite a bit to learn about what the guidance will be and sort of how we'll manage when you know, space constraints become you know, too much for us to accommodate. Last, I know there was an OMB memo sent to all agencies kind of asking everybody to submit a restructuring plan. Don't really have any intel on that. I think that executive order is only a week and a half or so old. So I don't really have any information for the group on that. You know, I do think what we're hearing from our central office is, you know, definitely renewing commitment to veterans, wanting to make sure our operations aren't compromised. Of course, we still are having the same budget issues that I've reported on in the past, where, you know, we've been working on kind of a zero growth footing, and we have been for some time. You know, our budget really drives the amount of people that we can have here in the hospital. So we're still kind of fighting battles on two fronts here, as far as, you know, working to try to, you know, get to a position where we're more solvent. And then also responding to accommodating to the changes that we're being asked to implement. And I think overall, so far, we haven't seen significant operational disruption in terms of like staffing. We have a couple of different areas that have had staffing concerns. You know, if we have delays in hiring processes that prolong much longer, we may start to have individual areas that suffer, but we are able to move forward with the majority of our business here and have not seen operational interruptions. The last thing that I wanted to report on, and then I'd be happy to just take questions on any of the things that I covered, was the Fisher House. We continue to move forward with the Fisher House. We did get some good news. You know, part of land acquisition in the federal government is you have to get approvals from historical preservation societies and other stakeholders, and we did get the first of those approvals. So we continue to march through the paperwork process required in order to complete land acquisition. I don't have a date for folks yet, but I can say that we continue to meet milestones, and you know, plans are still on track for that process and that program. And we still remain very excited about the prospect of bringing that to Madison. So I'll pause for a minute. I covered, I think, most of the issues that you raised, Keith, but happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
What questions do we have?
Well, I have one. Abe, have you seen any movement towards privatization again?
You know, nothing specific, Bob. I think that, you know, when we look at some of the legislation that's being proposed, you know, much of that legislation focuses on increased choice for veterans, you know, which does encourage privatization. But, you know, at the same time, we haven't had any, you know, direct communications about shuttering programs. You know, I know we probably have an imperative to, you know, work on the sustainability of our staffing levels here. And, you know, but I haven't heard anything, you know, about, you know, similar conversations about hospital closings or anything like that, only about, you know, enhancing veterans' choice, which is not inconsistent with, you know, what's come through in the past.
Thank you.
Abe, you mentioned the hospital. How about the satellite clinics? What's the impact been on them?
Oh, no difference.
Okay.
No difference. I mean, the majority of the positions that are active in our clinics are exempted positions because they're direct patient care positions, and we don't have any staffing or access challenges at any of our clinics at this time.
This is probably a tough question. Maybe, what's morale like?
Well, I think, we're dealing with a lot right now. It's difficult when there's all of these different demands on the hospital. I think, there's the return to work, I think is disruptive for people. I think overall our facility is pretty amazingly resilient as a group. I mean, we're very fortunate to have people who are incredibly dedicated to what we do here, and have been through a lot together. I think, as we are dealing with the interruptions, whether it's kind of like trying to figure out what the hiring freeze means for us, trying to understand, sort of what the deferred resignation program means and how it applies, not quite knowing what the future is, and having some uncertainty around that, it is just generally hard for people. But right now we're moving through it pretty well. We've been trying to do a lot of communications in the hospital, getting around and talking to people. We've had a couple of town halls. We're having one tomorrow. So we're just looking forward to try to keep the communications up and, just keep everybody mission focused. We have an important job to do here. And when we focus on it, we do an incredible job for Madison area veterans. And we just try to keep our eyes on that prize.
Has the leadership at the hospital received any inquiries, outreach from congressional representatives?
Not that I'm aware of I won't want to say any because, we were
recent focused on
nothing specific. I mean, we did have Representative Pocan here for a visit a few weeks ago and talked to him about a few of these items. He had some questions and we answered him. Certainly he shared his support for the facility and for Madison veterans.
Okay, thanks.
And could you give us a little more clarity on what positions were cut? I would assume DEI is among the group.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go over that. There was one of the executive orders dealt with diversity, equity, and inclusion positions. We did have one full-time position that was cut. Well, actually, I won't say that we had to move away from. Yes.
One of the things I noticed early on was that at the federal level, VA Central Office, I believe, and correct me if I understood it wrong, that the women's program coordinator at the national level, VACO office, was cut, and there was one other important billet that was cut. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I don't have as much intelligence on that, Connie, not being as familiar with, sort of the specifics of what's happening nationally and what those restructuring actions are. But there haven't been any changes locally to our programs other than the DEI position that we have based on these executive orders.
It's really nice to see Jody here. So I did away with my question about the women veterans coordinator at the hospital level. So.
What other questions do we have for Abe?
Abe, when we were, this is Bob again, when we were emailing before, you said that there were things that were in transition for the transportation for the VA. Could you tell us what those are? Or?
Oh yeah, those aren't programmatic or policy changes, Bob. They're more staffing. These are staffing issues that were present prior to any of this happening. I think to your question, because you had asked whether or not we could do kind of a presentation on our transportation programs for this group, I think we're very willing to do that. And I had talked to Kathy a little bit about trying to just, engage with you guys a little bit more to find out specifically what you were interested in, but it had more to do with just what was on the plate of the managers in that program at the time. And wanting to get a little bit more clarity as to the content that this group was interested in, whether it was specifically about filing claims, the different transportation options that we use for veterans, just trying to narrow the scope a little bit and help that team out because it's a busy area. And they have had some transitions in their management, and just wanting to make sure that we were, providing the right information and giving you guys really what you wanted as far as an educational update.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Floor is still open for questions for Abe. Okay, hearing none. Thanks, Abe. Appreciate it very much.
And if anyone has anything else that they'd like to ask me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody. Thanks.
Terrific.
Abe, could you, when they reach out to you, do you mean by email or phone? Do you want to put a number down to call? Or
I can put my email in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on, the next agenda item is update from the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. Cal, are you our guy?
I believe so, unless Joey has hopped on, or Colleen or Jody have anything right away.
Take it away, Cal. You got it.
Right. Can everybody see me?
Yep.
All right. Having a little bit of technical difficulties. Got Teams calls coming in, so I apologize. So yeah, if anybody didn't hear me before, my name's Cal Stammer with the Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs. I am one of 2 VORP supervisors. I cover the northern part of Wisconsin, and then a little bit of Sheboygan County too, in the Veteran Outreach and Recovery Program. Kind of jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife, master of absolutely nothing within the WDVA. I think Jody and Colleen can attest to that. And kind of talk about our suicide prevention efforts a little bit. First thing I wanted to talk about is QPR, Question, Persuade, Refer. It is a training that we do offer to all Wisconsin residents, all 72 counties and 11 tribes as well. I know the federal VA, we offer training too through there. We offer our training through the WDVA. And it's just something we want to bring to communities, veterans or non-veterans around the state of Wisconsin. About 145 suicide deaths in 2022. Currently, right now, we're in a cooperative agreement, kind of looking at all suicide deaths, doing a suicide mortality review, and really looking through those 2022 veteran deaths, and really trying to get down some good data on kind of what happened, with a really good partnership, so we can have a better understanding. But then also the other part of that is doing a veteran verification process. So going through all 900 plus total deaths in the state of Wisconsin in 2022, and then cross-referencing against that 145 to see if it truly was 145, or are we missing any veterans as well. So that is kind of something that we're working on as Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs and the federal VA and our partnerships within the state as well. On top of that, QPR, and then the Veteran Outreach and Recovery Program. It is a voluntary case management program. Q can attest to it, and some of the other partners that we work with. That program does save lives. It keeps people around. A lot of our staff are veterans. They come alongside these folks and just really help them get on their feet if they need that, or just that kind of maintenance too. We do have supportive service funds as well. We do have treatment dollars as well, which is pretty amazing. So we can help with that residential treatment options for veterans. A lot of our veterans do use the domiciliaries around the state too. And then we kind of help with that discharge planning too with our federal VA partners. Any questions kind of on those first pieces right away?
Yeah, Cal, could you explain the domiciliary?
I probably should not be the subject matter expert on the domiciliaries. Our federal VA partners can, because I'm sure I would be missing something if I explain everything that happens in the tracks of the domiciliaries. So I don't know if any of our Fed partners want to hop in.
Are you talking about the facility in Chippewa Falls, Union Grove, etc.?
So those are our veteran housing and recovery programs at Chippewa Falls, Union Grove, and Green Bay.
Not the same thing as domiciliaries, though?
No, not by any means. So the VHRPs, we're all military folks on here. You know, we use acronyms for everything. That's the Veteran Housing and Recovery Program. We do have one site in Green Bay. We have a site in Chippewa Falls, and we have another site in Union Grove. And that's for veterans that are homeless, risk of being homeless, you know, substance use, mental health, or maybe just a veteran that recently got divorced. And they're just kind of going through tough times. Veterans can be there up to 2 years, and they just really get those transferable skills and, get those soft skills to get back on their feet, employment, education, and then just kind of work on what's going on in their lives too. And then the goal is, have a stable income of some way, shape, or form, maybe a service-connected disability, maybe pension, maybe SSDI, or employability as well, and then go into permanent housing from those veteran housing and recovery programs as well.
Are there case managers there, and is that contract still operated by Lutheran Social Services?
Yep, the contract is still operated by LSS. So we get the money from the feds. We do oversee, LSS. Jenny Fay, who's my supervisor, she's in charge of the VORP program and the Veteran Housing and Recovery program. And I actually just had a town hall at Green Bay yesterday at one of the sites. We have 16 total veterans there. That one does hold 17 total veterans. We just have one room. We're kind of working on some maintenance issues right now. And it was really cool. A lot of the veterans had really good stuff to say about the program. And a lot of them were really happy with the cooking and happy with the classes and stuff that's going on. And a couple of them were attesting to going into permanent housing really shortly after that meeting too. So it just kind of shows the success of those veterans and the success of, LSS doing that case management and helping those folks out.
Did I understand that correctly, that that's federally funded?
Yep. So those are funds that we get from the feds. So it's kind of that reimbursement process with the beds total that we have.
Have you heard any updates on potential changes?
I have not. I haven't heard any changes.
One question, Cal, if I could.
Sure.
When we talk about the suicide intervention and prevention part of the mission, and with Andrea here with us, that's pretty simpatico. How does that work in terms with the communication link for referral to VA hospitals around the state? And do you know, or Andrea, do you know, does that information come into the hospital for anything that's showing up at the clinics? Does the VISN get the aggregate information? How does that line of communication work between the VORP and the VA hospitals?
In the federal and the hospitals?
Well, say Madison, for instance.
Yeah, so kind of the piece on that. So that's our regional coordinators that work in those regions, that kind of covering those visions. They're direct contacts with the VA hospitals. So our regional coordinators, as well as our clinical coordinators, they're signing the ROIs with those Wisconsin veterans and having that direct communication with the suicide prevention coordinators, with the social workers, and with the doctors as well.
Mm-hmm. Can we assume that the access that veterans are supposed to have for mental health care and emergent mental health care in crisis, that's working well in terms of the Compact Act provisions? I hate assuming anything. I guess that's why I'm asking.
So from being boots on the ground in 2015, being a regional coordinator, to where we're at right now, this is the best I've ever seen with veterans getting access to care. I've never seen veterans have the ability to get the care that's needed, but a lot of times too, we're using county resources too. And I think people always forget about that. These veterans, they are county residents as well. So, they do qualify for their county crisis, and all those other programs too. So it's not always VA right away when veterans are in crisis. We do lean on county crisis too.
Mm-hmm. Just a general question for the group, if I could, and then I won't ask any more till the next person. But NAMI Wisconsin has a statewide initiative called the Mental Health Action Partnership. Is that term of art familiar to anyone in the room besides me?
No.
Okay. This is something, Abe, and you and I can talk about it later, and Keith, it would be great to get you involved because of your county's association tie. However, there isn't, other than me, that I know of at this point, any veteran participation in that statewide initiative, which has different work groups. For example, my area of interest is in their criminal justice working group. To have situation awareness on the MHAP and how that would affect veterans and families, because as we all know, most veterans do not get their health care through the VA. And now we're dealing with a population of veterans, particularly in rural areas, that will be attempting or have always tried to access, and I always use mental health care as my example, the resources that are available out there. So, you know, my hope is, and I've talked about this with Kathy, that we can get NAMI Wisconsin to come in for a mental health action partnership brief in the future, so that folks sitting around the table here, and I hope a larger audience, can get a feel for where this initiative stands at this point. So thanks for letting me talk a little bit about the MHAP, and Abe, I'll be in touch again with it.
Connie, I don't really know what that initiative is, but I do know that we have a deflection work group here through the VA, and we maybe you helped us out, but we were selected to present for the NAMI conference this year in April about deflecting veterans from the criminal justice system. So happy to hear this other work group, and if there's a way, some connection needed. I know Katie Beck's on the call, and she's doing a lot of coalition work around deflection as well. So might be nice to tap in to her as well.
Andrea, that's what I was hoping to hear. So thanks for saying it. I have a phone call with Lisa scheduled, a Veteran Justice Outreach Coordinator, to talk more about that deflection, the deflection program that the hospital has briefed on in the past. And I think the auditorium was pretty full when that was briefed. Would be another thing, maybe, Abe, that Keith and Kathy and VetsCAN would want to talk about, getting that information to the audience too, because it's such an important program. So now I'll be quiet again.
Always like to hear your input, Connie. Any questions for Cal? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update. Let's go around the room here and see if we've got updates from other folks relative to what's going on in their programs, either at the university or Madison College. Any updates? Curious, are the programs at Madison College or Edgewood that serve veterans, are they federally funded or are they funded through the university?
Matt, are you on? Can you answer that one? He's probably gonna make me answer it. I don't know for sure, but I will say that we were told by our VP that the funding for vets coming from the VA is not going to be affected by any of this so far.
Okay.
But as to the rest of your question, I'm not 100% sure. For Madison College, no huge updates. We're combining our vet benefits and vet resources into one, I don't know, not mega, there's only like 6 of us, but veteran services department. So I guess that's a new thing. We're going to be housed together, and we're going to be a little bit higher up. We're going to hopefully have like a manager that will report a little higher. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more power or a little bit more influence. Who knows? And I think that's kind of all I have for updates. Nothing really crazy or super important for this whole group.
There's one thing that I would add at this point, and that's for our guest speaker when we come to that session as part of this. Joe Rasmussen sent a very comprehensive and thoughtful message on transitioning and student veterans and challenges that they've faced at UW-Madison and that his colleagues in other universities have faced. I don't have the wherewithal to put that message into the chat unless I really think about it. But I have that message in my queue. So when the time comes for the education session, if Joe Rasmussen were here, I suspect he'd talk about that a bit. So however you would like to hear what his concerns were, it was a very articulate message. And with our guest speaker and the program he represents regarding transition, this would be a good opportunity for him to hear that feedback.
Keith,
Yes.
I have to go, but there's something I became aware of in terms of fundraising that may be of interest. Ho Chunk will fund certain activities. One of them is when they cash out their chits or whatever you want to call them, the odd change is people have a choice of giving the odd change to a non-for-profit. And you can apply there. I am applying for the VFW, our post, but it amounts to about $10,000 a month. And that is the duration of which this occurs. So anyway, it is for a nonprofit a fairly decent way of fundraising without a whole lot of trouble.
Well, thanks, Bob. I think that's something that you and I and Kathy ought to chat about.
Sure.
Yeah, and I have the paperwork for it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, I have to go now. Sorry.
All right.
I'm dog sitting. So, thank you.
Other updates from folks on the call?
Jennifer, would you be mad? It's been so, if I put you on the spot?
No, I'm good.
Good. How
How
are things going over there?
They're going okay. So I'm Jennifer Fisher. I'm with the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Dane County. And haven't been able to log on for a few months, sorry. But things are going okay, really busy. Lots of calls, lots of people, you know, looking for resources, looking for help. And so we answer people's questions and link them to resources as best as we can. And I may have a question about veterans transportation. Although our transportation provider was gone today, I didn't get to connect with them before this call. But we had one time had an RFP for veterans transportation that only one vendor bid on, that now is unable to no longer do that service. So just kind of want to make sure that we use this group to get that information out, and so that maybe it can get out to people who would be potentially interested in providing the service.
Is there some, I forget what they're called, but do you want to send us the position description for that? And
Yeah, it would be yes, it would be an RFP that someone would bid on through the county, but yes.
Anything you can send us that we could help introduce around on our website would be great.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
You said that RFP would be through Dane County?
Through Dane County, yes.
Is that an active RFP? I mean, it's available right now.
I don't believe yet. That was what I was gonna connect with our transportation department, and he's off today. So I'll know tomorrow, but I don't, because he's back tomorrow. I don't believe it's active yet.
Is the catchment area just Dane County, or is it broader than that?
Just Dane County.
Okay, thank you.
Jenna,
Jennifer, for you, if I could. Your liaison with the VA Hospital's Caregiver Support Program, is that a communication check-in on a periodic basis? Because so much of your caregiver programs and what they do have information to share. So
I actually meet with Megan monthly. So we have a monthly call, and this year we're actually doing a lot of co-planning. Yes, so we actually meet monthly.
It's a nice partnership. I'm so glad to see you back. So thanks.
Abe, did you have a question?
I was only going to ask Jenna, what is the nature of the transportation service? Is it like individual rides? Is it routes? Just trying to get a feel for what the service is that you're looking to fill.
I believe it's individual rides to get veterans different places.
Okay.
maybe
Like kind of
potentially.
an on-demand kind of
Kind of a veteran's
taxi or
Uber.
special mode or, yeah.
Special mode, like, yes, I like the, yes. And to get people different, to get veterans different places.
Okay.
Okay. For our next meeting, could you possibly give us an update on that?
Yes.
Any other questions or updates, comments? If not, I'd like to move on to Quentin to give him sufficient time for his presentation. All right, hearing none, Quentin, I think the floor is yours. You have a slide presentation? You're on mute. There you go.
I do have a PowerPoint presentation. Keith, thank you. And when you're ready to share your screen, before we we're ready to get to that.
Connie, can you share your screen to do this? I'm not,
You
let's
should
see.
be able to, Quentin, you
I
should
guess
be
I
able to-
can do it. What do I hit next? Share, huh? I'm not a
Keith-
technological wizard, so let's see how this works.
Keith, Quentin should have access to do this directly. Do you have it, Quentin?
I do have screen sharing, but I'm not the host, so it's not my screen that, I mean, I can share my screen.
Well, I'm not the host. Connie, Kathy set this up. She's the host.
I've already hit the share thing for anyone who wants to now. That's what I'm getting at. So
Well, let me back away from this and stop sharing, and you try it.
So Quentin, what I've clicked is multiple participants can share. Does that
There
give
we
you
go.
the access you need to do this yourself?
So all I have right now is a screen with the Zoom logo. So I don't know what happened
Well, let me try it. How about that? Does that help?
I'm still just a Zoom logo. I'm gonna see if I can.
It says participants can now see my screen.
Hey, Q, on the bottom, like on the bottom bar of Zoom, can you just take your mouse and go all the way to the bottom bar, and you should have a little green button that does say share.
Yeah, I finally got that Zoom logo screen to disappear.
There you go. And then you should be able to share now if you click on that.
So before I really get into the Onward Ops transition program, just a little bit of background for those of you who don't know anything about our organization, Wisconsin Veterans Network. For about the last 9 years, we've been working with veterans and veteran families statewide to find resources for those who, A, don't know where resources are, how to apply. B, may have been to a number of places looking for resources and going to the wrong places and being told no and referred somewhere else. Or C, not eligible for any of the resources in the veteran services space. So our work centered around developing relationships with many of you and many other VSOs all over the state of Wisconsin and city and county and other agencies and nonprofits outside the veteran space to try to serve those who don't qualify within the veteran space. And as we all know, about half our veteran population, or who we define as a veteran, don't qualify for VA services. And if they don't qualify there, they won't qualify for the big VSOs, the big national VSOs, because they too are chartered by Congress and have to follow the congressional definition of veteran. So all that said, we have spent a lot of time traveling this state and building relationships, making sure people understand. We don't want to do what they do. We want to bring veterans to them if they're qualified for their services, and our intake process is pretty extensive, and veterans are able to come to us from anywhere in the state through our website, by calling us. Obviously, here in the southeast Wisconsin area, they can walk through the door. And just a note on that, post-COVID, I'm at less than 10% of our traffic now walks through the door. Everybody comes in online. Got used to it, I think, during the COVID experience, and it's stuck. And even our local Milwaukee area veterans will come to us online. So basically, if they're coming through the door, they're looking for that direct resource like a bus pass, a gas card, food insecurity issues or other issues that we're serving here locally with direct dispensing, those kinds of gift cards, etc. So that's who we are, who we have been. We've developed relationships in the Fox Valley, Green Bay, Wausau, LaCrosse, I mean, all across the state, getting to know who resources are so that if an intake comes to us from, let's say, Rhinelander, I may not know the exact resource in that area, but I know people in north central Wisconsin who do. So it makes it a little easier for us to quickly identify what the needs are and identify who's best suited to meet those needs. So in our 8+ years of operating in this space, we've served a few over 3,000 veterans and their families. And the appalling thing to me right now is in the last year and a half with the economy, every basic need in the economy on the rise, and a rapidly increasing part of our veteran population and census is seniors who can't keep up with the rising cost living on fixed income. So that's been a real challenge for us and caused us to go back to the market and raise more emergency funds of our own last year as everybody ran out of money. So challenging, but I'm glad that we're here to do the work. About 3 years or so ago, we were approached by the Onward Ops, which is nationally, it is officially the ETS sponsorship organization, is the parent organization. It's a national nonprofit. They were established to provide transition support to active duty military personnel who are 6 to 12 months out from transitioning to civilian life. And the whole purpose of this program long term is suicide prevention. So our brand, Onward Ops, we're carrying that brand in the state of Wisconsin for the state of Wisconsin veterans or service members coming to the state of Wisconsin. But really we operate under the auspices of an operational agreement with the VA Mental Health Administration, VISN 12, as gives permission for both Onward Ops nationally and regionally to operate. So we have been at this for about 3 years. And if we get back to what's the problem here, and there it is. In that first 12 months is a deadly gap. It's the most stressful and dangerous time for a new veteran. Without reading to you, I'll just describe my own experience. I'm an Army veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and my experience when I exited the military is I hear it echoed with almost every veteran with whom I speak. Was I got out of the military with a goodbye, God bless you from the U.S. Army, and basically spent a year trying to figure out, well, who am I? What am I going to do? And surrounded by people who didn't understand the difference in our lives since we had last seen each other. My friends, my college friends, and other friends, well, they were still my friends, but their experience didn't bear in mind. They didn't understand context of what a veteran deals with when exiting the military. So the whole purpose of this program is to create that soft landing for a service member who's coming home by connecting them with someone. Michael said earlier, he's one of our sponsors. He is background checked. He is trained to be a sponsor to help that service member begin to vision what it is they're going to do when they come home, what it is they're going to need when they come home, so that if it's housing, employment, getting their VA healthcare enrollment in place, getting their qualification for VA home loan or VA educational benefits, all of those things in place before the transition happens so that it's a soft landing, and that the veteran, when they become a veteran, they understand they've hit the ground and have a support group. And there is a vast team of people on the ground in Wisconsin who are their team. So it's bridging that gap and easing them into civilian life. So as you see that last statement in that first paragraph there, during that first 12-month period, veterans commit suicide rates 2.3 times above the national average. It's a stressful period of time when you're trying to figure out who I am and what am I going to do with my life. We've had a reactive approach. This is a very proactive approach and designed long-term to reduce veteran suicide. The program's different because they enroll before they leave service. So our memorandums of understanding with the VA and the Department of Defense allow us to enroll them as part of TAP, even before TAP program. But it is presented in TAP programs currently at Army active duty Army installations, and they can enroll. They are connected to that mentor sponsor, hopefully right in the destination city. And we do have trained sponsors all over the state of Wisconsin. So pretty much wherever a veteran is going, we can connect them with someone in that geographic area to work with them. But they will still be able to work with them beyond that separation from military service. So the states get awareness of those incoming veterans. Their communities get informed of the veterans coming. That allows the state and the local community to be prepared to receive that service member home. The service member and the sponsor both get access to a complete Google workspace. It's a dashboard plus the entire Google business suite of applications to use, but it's a communication device for them and for us. Preferably, we'd like to do more, and we do more with those service members than just communicating through the Google dashboard, follow-up emails, phone calls to people. And the veteran has this. Okay, so I've tried to bear with me. I got to separate my brain here from working both in the veteran space and in the transitioning space. The transitioning service member has the option to enroll in this program either with a sponsor or solo. And the enrollments that we're getting are increasing on the solo side. And we can discuss a little bit of problems that may create for them as we continue to wrap up this presentation. But that creates problems in that they're not then directly connected to an individual sponsor, but they are connected to us. So this is kind of nationally who's being served by ETS and Onward Ops nationally. So you see the 80% are male, 20% are female. There's a mix between 41% of them are single and half of them are married, and the rest are a mix. Age ranges, 68% of these service members are under 30 years old. So it's people who aren't it's a smaller portion of this population who are retiring out of the military who may be better prepared for transition to civilian life in terms of financial stability. Rather, it is the vast majority are younger veterans who may have a tougher time transitioning, particularly financially. You see where they're going, and we're not in that top 12 destination states. Interestingly, this program, we were the sixth state in the country to implement this program. And interestingly, for Wisconsin, we have the further problem that 40% of the people who enlist from Wisconsin, when they ETS from the military, they do not return to Wisconsin. So that's a loss to Wisconsin off the top. 2,100 a year basically exit the military who had enlisted in Wisconsin, but that means right off the top, we lose 480 people who don't come home to Wisconsin. And when we all look at that, and I out process in Texas and I start thinking about Wisconsin winters, and that may be a deterrent to returning to Wisconsin just for, as we think about why don't they come home? I'm just going to run through these. You can read. I'm not going to read them to you, just to hit the high spots. Last year, 17,500 of these transitioning service members who were processed were screened for a suicide risk. That is also something that happens on the end. 130 were at imminent risk at the time they were screened. And they were referred to immediate care, received services for the issues they were trying to deal with. 7,500 of them enrolled, of those screened enrolled and are supported. 5,600 veterans assisted enrolling with VA healthcare. The big issue for the VA has always been that only about 30% of the people who exit the military enroll in VA healthcare. So this program is designed to not only encourage them, but to assist with the enrollment so that they're in position for those continuing services, post-military service. There were 1,200 sponsors trained across the country. We have 81 of those in the state of Wisconsin. So we're ready for any service member who's getting ready to come home. And as a note for those of you who are not veterans, you don't have to be a veteran to be a sponsor. All sponsors are background checked, and all sponsors are fully trained. There's about 7.5 hours, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. About 7.5 hours of training. You can do that at your own pace online. And then once that training is completed, the sponsor is certified and is eligible to be assigned a service member. The process is very simple. If you're a co-op, that is mean you have a sponsor, and that's 40% of the enrollments. You enroll, you do an intake, you get matched to a mentor. You and that mentor work together to develop an action plan of your homecoming plan, and then you come home. And those things you identified that needed to be in place are in place when you come home. Solo. We're kind of the middleman here. So that's an enrollment, and we don't serve as a sponsor, but we will do the follow-up to make sure they're developing an action plan. We can help them because we have the relationship statewide with all of you and many others to resource that action plan, but that will be resourcing more at their own initiative. And when that happens, they come home. They graduate from the program. So it's fairly straightforward. And the whole goal is to get them home and stable when they get home and ready to pick up civilian life with a network of people already in place that they can connect with. For those of you not from a military background, that's what happened to us when we went in the military. We were stripped down as an individual, built back as part of a team, and given a mission, a purpose, and goals, and that's the way we learn to operate. And it's kind of jarring reality when you get out and you don't have team, mission, goal. You got nothing. So that's a pretty good overview of this program this year. The goal for 2025 is to enroll 27,000 service members in this program. We are anxious for the national program to extend their recruiting to other branches of the military. And one of the obstacles to that expansion is the other branches of the military. Army was first. That may be because General Eastman, who's a retired brigadier general who runs this program nationally, is an Army retiree, and he had the ends with that command structure. But each branch of the military wants to see a little bit different variation on the program before they give approval to implement it, for instance, with the Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, etc. But those plans and that discussion is ongoing with the Pentagon to reduce and remove some of those obstacles so that those service members have the same opportunity. You should know that this program is available to any service member in any branch of the military. We have had two from the Coast Guard who heard about the program and enrolled in the program. There is no restriction to anybody from any branch of service. If you have connection to a service member in any other branch who plans to exit the military and wants the assistance of a mentoring program, they can go straight to the Onward Ops website and enroll, and they'll be fully eligible. So that was designed to give you an oversight. I'll try to answer any questions you have specific to this program, how we're running it in Wisconsin. I will tell you this, we didn't agree. We set out to expand this program to include the National Guard and reservists in Wisconsin. They can also enroll. That's a little bit different probably scenario for them in that they are already a citizen soldier. They probably already have a home. They probably have a job, although they may be looking for other employment, and we will assist them with that. And why was it extended to Guard and Reserve? Quite honestly, the Guard and Reserve have a worse suicide problem than the active duty military does. And there is that difficulty of transition from that service that looks different from active duty transition, but nonetheless, difficulty of transition. So any questions for me? Just fire away. I'm happy to do it. I'm trying to be a respecter of your time.
Michael, it's Keith. This sounds like an offshoot of the governor's challenge from years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's where it was born, Keith. Yes. When we were part of the governor's challenge, as it was being put together, this program was rolling out nationally. The program nationally had contacted the state of Wisconsin WDVA, asked for a recommendation on an organization to implement this program in Wisconsin. We're called the Community Integration Coordinator, and it was their recommendation to talk to us.
I think I remember those phone calls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to kind of exercise the chair's prerogative and ask some questions, and I'm going to open it up. Michael, you're the guy on the ground.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. I've been doing this since ETS sponsorship started. Go ahead.
Are you able to help like families kind of serve as a navigator to help them enroll their kids in school or get connected with the faith-based community?
Not saying that we can't. I have not, because most of the people that I've worked with are all been single.
Okay.
Now I also do national, so I do Wisconsin, but I also last year worked with someone out of California, coming out of Fort. I call it Fort Hood still, Cavazos. But yeah, so I'll do damn near anything they ask if I can. But I just haven't run into that yet.
So Michael, let me ask you a question, Michael.
Yeah.
Because you're boots on the ground and hands-on with, sometimes we find it difficult to get them to communicate back with us.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had difficulty getting the service member to just stay plugged in and keep working on that homecoming plan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just depends. I mean, I've had where they assign me someone and they never contact me.
Yeah.
I'm currently working with a young guy out of Twin Lakes and we haven't spoken 2 weeks and I sent in notes and going, dude, let's talk. Now it's all individual, right? It depends on where are they sitting in their life. You know, I start out with things like what makes you nervous right now? And I give them my why. My why is I left the United States Army after 7 years and nobody said a boo to me. And I said, and I've made mistakes and I've done things. So now I'm trying to help you not make those same mistakes. But with the gentleman I'm working with today, he probably has a job lined up. Gonna work for a contractor, happens to be a drone guy. Coming out of Fort Drum, going on terminal leave sometime in April, May. His ETS date's in June. So we work through the process. So we say, where do you want to go? And then I reverse engineer and try to go, here's what we need to do. We're going to prep you, got to make sure that you go to the sick call, right? Get all your paperwork in line. When you get out, I've already gave him phone numbers to everybody he needs to speak to on the day he gets home to Twin Lake. So he knows who the CVSO is. He knows, he already knows about what college. He already knows about GI Bill, Wisconsin GI Bill. So you sort of give him all this information. Some of it's reference, and I follow up with emails, so he has a reference document, so he doesn't have to wait for me to call him. So there's a lot to do it, and it all depends on the person you're working with. I guess a good, bad example is last year working with a young man he was in Texas. He started talking about, ending his life. I am not a mental health expert. I called the crisis line. I had the crisis line call him. And we had already enrolled him at the vet center in Texas. So it was just more of a, they called him and said, hey, I recommended they talk to him. So they're all individuals. And you all have to you have to look at them and say, okay, where do you want to go? And how do I get you there? Now he was very successful. He was a combat medic. He became an EMT and a firefighter. Went to school and then you, in a sense, in the words, you graduate them. I haven't figured out that graduate them yet. It's sort of an ambiguous thing. What does it mean? Are they, okay, might have a job. Maybe he's in school or he or she, but at what point, and I'm always, I worry about that. We graduate them, but hopefully they're doing okay. And I do reach out a little bit later to see. But Quentin made a good point. And I'll speak for myself as a former Army guy, we don't communicate. I mean, we have our own little world. And and communication sometimes feels weak. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, Michael, to your point right there. I mean, on the other side of our house with the veterans that we deal with, veterans so reluctant to ask for help. I guess all people are, but veterans more so. And the problem really becomes they're at a crisis point before they really ask for help. So, I try to counsel, and I'm sure you do too, that, it's like if I have a problem in my marriage or in my job or anywhere else, it doesn't get better unless it's addressed. So the earlier you address, the easier it is. And so try to convince some of these guys, man, so your utilities are being shut off tomorrow. You knew this 30 days ago, where have you been? So that kind of a deal. And I suspect the young service member getting ready to leave the military is no better at asking for help than
Oh, yeah.
the 55-year-old veteran. So
And one last point, I try to sort of put this back onto Onward Ops to say, make sure they know to contact you before they leave base. Because
yeah,
I've had them leave base and not do some things they should have done. And I get questions like, hey, what about moving? Well, they actually had gone through a process and talking to someone about moving, but it didn't click in their head when they were talking to them. Right. So, you get your final move for free, right? When, they'll move you for free for your last, whatever, PCS, I'll call it. But it's just interesting that, to Quentin's point, if you can't, you really got to get them early on so you can help them check off those boxes. I have some tools I send to people that they're little stupid things that I use, but it's to help them look at the future and how to keep track.
Connie, you have a question?
Yes, a couple of things, and this is directed to both of you. And logistically, I never know if my chats are getting through, but before we leave here, would you both, Quentin and Michael, share your contact info with the group and links to related websites for the national program and also here in Wisconsin? So any information that can help folks who are around the table would be very helpful for them to have if you could put that in the chat. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to say, and this goes to what I brought up at the beginning, are either of you familiar with the Warrior Scholar Project?
I have heard of it, but I don't know it.
Okay.
I'm not.
This won't take very long, but because we have Matthew Schroeder here and Sam Mullen from Edgewood and from Madison College, the Warrior Scholar Project's an organization that helps active duty and enlisted vets transition from the military into higher education, because the failure rate in those efforts is also extremely high, as I know, Quentin, you and Michael are already aware of. Warrior Scholar Project's recruiting for its 2025 summer academic boot camp right now, which will be held on college and university campuses across the country. And this is free of charge. These are 1-week college prep boot camps that take place on their higher education campuses during the summer, and they focus on humanities, STEM, and business curricula. So to get transitioning vets who want to go use their higher education benefits positioned to be as successful as they can in that element of transition. Quentin and Michael, I'll put information about the Warrior Scholar Project in the chat before we leave. But this was some of, I'm hoping that you'll share it with General Eastman and anybody else you think it's worth sharing with. Here's what UW-Madison had to say. Warrior Scholar is a great chance for vets to get to participate in the program and are interested in earning a bachelor's degree. However, from the school perspective, it ends up being high cost for little return. Joe, our liaison at UW-Madison, says they wanted us to pay for nearly every expense to host Warrior Scholar Project without a partnership with the school to enroll the students once they complete the program. The result is that most of the partner schools are private institutions with very deep pockets. Let me see. If I had the funds to host Warrior Scholar, I'd first put it towards transition and other supports for our own students and Wisconsin veterans. And that's the reason I'm hoping that you'll take the full message I'll send you that Joe put together on this and share that thought with the general and others in the chain of command that might be interested in hearing this feedback about that program. The Bob Woodruff Foundation forwarded this message and right now is hosting a nationwide webinar on this very subject to make sure folks are aware of this. So thanks for letting me make sure I bring it up so I can share specifically this feedback from UW-Madison. Matthew's on the phone with us from Edgewood, I know, and he said his reply back was something we'd be very interested in. I think the information we get with Joe Rasmussen's message is that it's high dollar, and typically the only ones who can really take advantage of it are institutions that have very deep pockets. So if there could possibly be a way for your group, General Eastman's group, to partner with them, maybe that's a way to make this more available. I know you're a 501c4, which makes lobbying much easier for certain things. So I can tell you from my experience with transitioning from the Navy that, and that was back in 2005. It was, and for officers, it was supposed to be a great program. And I can tell you that there were a lot of problems with it then, because it was, as you described, for a very long time, not adequate for the needs for enlisted and officer, either group of folks. So thanks, Keith, for the opportunity to spend a little time on the Warrior Scholar Project aspect of transitioning veterans to institutes of higher education.
Connie, to your point, I'm going to address one thing too, because who's eligible to enroll in Onward Ops? If a service member has already transitioned, they're eligible to enroll in this program up to a year after their separation. So if there's a student who feels like they need a coach to help them with issues, whatever those issues are, they can enroll in the program up to 1 year after their ETS. So they'd be eligible. Also, on the other side of our house, we do have student veterans at a couple of colleges locally who have come to us for assistance with resources through our VetsNet resourcing program, not part of Onward Ops. And certainly if they're a veteran, they're eligible to come and knock on that door at any time as well. So, vast majority of our veteran clients are post 9/11. So they're younger veterans. And they're out there, and often maybe need a helping hand, and that's what we're here for. So,
Of course, go ahead, Connie, finish.
No, I was just appreciate it. And I'll get back in touch with you, Quentin. Appreciate your contact info.
Do you attempt to match service members with service members from the same service, for instance, Army to Army, or?
Not specifically, Keith, to be honest, no. We attempt to match if we have a female service member. We're going to match with a female service member.
Yeah, certainly.
We have fewer females enrolled to be sponsors, and we have fewer female enrolled transitioning service members. So, that's been an easy fit thus far. But matching to military service, we have not. I should ask Joseph. He's doing those matches every day. I don't think we're trying to specifically match to make sure it's exact match to military service.
What prompts my question is I have a stepson who was in the Corps, lives in Milwaukee, and he participated in the training. And to my knowledge, he's never been matched with a returning service member in the Milwaukee area. So
that's because Marine Corps doesn't participate in the program, Keith.
Well, that's but he could be matched with somebody coming out of the Army.
He absolutely can.
Yeah, well, that's what prompted my question, Quentin.
Right.
Yeah, just to comment, I usually get a list of like 4 service members to say, hey, would you like to pick one? And from my perspective, I'll look and see if their background and my background are similar.
Yeah.
And then that's the way I do it.
Okay, that's fair. Other questions for Michael or Quentin?
Quentin, could you check your phone number in the chat? We've got one too many numbers somehow in there.
Let me scroll and look at that.
That's a good way to limit questions, Quentin.
Eliminate that first 6.
All righty.
Well, I very much appreciate your presentation, and I'm glad that the effort that you put into the Governor's Challenge, and I probably put 3 or 4 days into that training, that has come to fruition. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I'm disappointed with the census that we've had thus far, but it is increasing. I'm excited about the entree that we have right now to the Guard and Reserve. this is a service that they need as well. So we're happy to be able to take it to them.
Well, you mentioned transition. That's kind of a personal story. I was in the military a long time. I did a combination of 8 years enlisted and 28 commission. I was in for 38 years. It was a combination of guard, reserve, active duty time. And when I retired, it was one of those days on the first weekend of the month, and you wake up, and guess what, Keith? You're no longer responsible for multi-million dollars worth of equipment and the lives of 50 people. You're just Keith who lives in Sun Prairie. And I'm well connected to the community, but it's kind of a surprise when you start thinking about it.
It's a shock. It was for me.
Yeah, it was a shock. Yeah, absolutely. Uniforms are still in a closet starched, just in case,
Hey, Keith, and guess what? My wife and I recently downsized to a condo, and my dress screens are hanging in that closet. And I went through some weight loss last year with some health problems. I can wear my dress screens again.
Well, I guess that's a good outcome for a health challenge, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I sure can.
And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. My contact info is there. Thank you for that catch on the phone number, Connie. And
no, somebody told me.
Okay, so at any rate, call, email, whatever, with any questions you have.
What we can do, Quentin, is if you could email your slide deck to Keith and me when this is over.
Yes, I can.
That would be great. And we'll make sure that everybody who came here today gets that slide deck. So.
Great.
Those of you who are looking at my surroundings are probably wondering, where is this guy? And I can tell you, I'm stationed on the southern border to prevent any incursions from the Gulf of Mexico. That said, I really appreciate everyone's participation today. It was a good group. I think that maybe what's going on in our environment is probably going to require us to have more extensive conversations on an ongoing basis. And that's a good thing, because we're all here for one reason, and that's to support veterans and their families and their children. So again, I thank you. Our next call is the 20th of March. Connie, do you recall if we had postponed the transportation topic? I'm not sure if we'll be ready to do it at that time, but one of the things that came to mind that you mentioned was having a presentation by NAMI.
I would like to work with Abe and NAMI Wisconsin to see if we couldn't make that a broader discussion along the lines of the separate, but along the lines of the Purdue University's Military Families Research Institute, so that folks who are treating veterans out in the community are aware of this. So that would require a little time for partnership and coordination with DVA as well. So I don't see Colleen on here anymore, so I'm going to have to chat with her too. But for March, I have been talking with Ms. Bonaparte at the VA hospital, who's just gotten approval from the PENTAD leadership group to present on the Veterans Directed Care Program. And I'm hoping we can do that for our March session. She's on board with it. I think leadership is on board with it. Abe, I think she got that approval yesterday.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And I would just offer, if we do kind of identify what folks are interested in for transportation, I think we could probably work on that one as well. And have, even if we had two, we could do a short just overview for folks, or whatever it is that meets the need. We'll make sure that we're here for you guys.
Thank you always. So
for those of you who don't know, and maybe you all do know, that the National Association for the Mentally Ill, NAMI, was started in Dane County.
And Joyce Abramson, the woman who was involved in setting that up, is one of the angry families way back when. And I can speak to being an angry family member because I've been working with NAMI for a long time in Maryland and Wisconsin. She's still around and is pretty much viewed as a patron saint for the organization writ large. So,
and who's that?
Joyce Abramson is her name. She's amazing. Nancy, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I actually used to work in the same office building with her son.
That is Nancy. Who's Joyce? I have no idea, but Nancy's still around, and when she shows up to talk to legislators, they listen, state legislators.
So now you all officially know that I'm old. That said, it's 4:27. I think it's time for us to sign off. Again, I appreciate your participation and your attendance. And as I used to tell the troops, keep your head down and your powder dry.
Thanks everyone for joining us
Yeah,
today.
take care. Bye.